China. And besides executive compensation and executive individual attributes, tax authority enforcement is another important factor that can influence corporate tax activities. Hobbes assert that United States public firms undertake less aggressive tax position when tax enforcement is stricter. So in my research, I will focus on monitoring function of tax authority enforcement. And this is my research model. And there are 3 individual variables, 1 mediating variable and 1 dependent variable. And based on agency theory and the contract theory, there are 2 independent variables, executive compensation and executive individual attributes. And what's more, based on effective tax theory, there are another independent variables, tax authority enforcement. And these 3 independent variables can directly influence on corporate tax activities, and moreover, they can influence corporate tax activities through a mediating variable that is managerial opportunistic behavior. And then I set up 7 hypotheses. The first one, executive compensation is negatively related to managerial opportunistic behavior. The second, executive compensation is positively related to corporate tax activities. And the third, there is a significant correlation between executive individual attributes and the managerial opportunistic behavior. And the fourth, there is a significant correlation between executive individual attributes and corporate tax activities. And the fourth, tax authority enforcement is positively related to managerial opportunistic behavior. And the sixth, tax authority enforcement is positively related to corporate tax activities. And the last one, opportunistic behavior is positively related to corporate tax activities. And then this is my methodology. In my research, population include all listed companies on Shenzhen Stock Exchange. And the research obtained second date of annual accounting and management data from Chinese stock market accounting research database. And the tax rate data are resourced from the site financial research database. And this is my sample. The tax form in the financial industry are excluded, and the non-board market firms are excluded. The sample consists of 476 firms, and over the period from 2010 to 2016. And this is how my measure executive compensation and measure executive individual attributes and measure tax authority enforcement. And this is my mediating variable, executive opportunistic behavior, and I divided it in 2 parts. The first one is over-investment, and the second is perks. And then this is dependent variable, corporate tax activities. And in my research, I use qualitative approach to supplement my study. Personal interview will be conducted with 5 managing directors. A set of questions outline will be prepared for the interview, and the interview will be recorded and transcribed. Highlight of the interview response will be reported in our chapter. And that's all. Thanks for your listening.
Okay, thank you. Any words from the panels, the faculties, or the students?
May you put your framework? Okay. Over here, you have managerial opportunistic behavior as a mediating variable. Am I right? So, but where is your hypothesis? You just have 7 hypotheses which all goes for the direct relationship. Which hypothesis that you have over here among these 7 that can measure? There is a significant correlation between executive individual attribute and corporate tax activities. Is it? So, which type of statistical test you want to use? No, go back to your hypothesis. Okay. Which type of statistical test you are going to use to test this hypothesis? Any particular statistical tools? You are going for correlation, you are going for regression, you are going for t-test. Yeah, the type of analysis that you have to use.
The seventh and the third and the fourth.
Okay, over here you are mentioning there is a significant correlation between executive individual attributes and managerial opportunistic behavior. Am I right? So this is a direct relation. Actually, the word of correlation has a different meaning. You have to change the correlation to relation.
Relation.
Okay, the relationship.
Okay.
Then, when the opportunistic behavior is mediating variable, then you should have the hypothesis over here, but you don't have hypothesis.
I don't know if seventh is.
You should have another 3 hypotheses.
Another?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
And if you go back to your research questions, okay, how do you want to answer the last research questions that you have?
I think there is legal hope in Chinese tax authority, and the Chinese tax collector, they are law. They are qualified. They are qualified as law.
I think what Prof. Shaheen is saying that there's no variable that is showing enforcement. Yeah, you don't have a variable on enforcement. So which variable is related to enforcement in your framework? Yes.
There is tax authority enforcement. It's our independent variable.
What she's saying is H6.
Enforcement in a country is not a variable, it's a constant. For the whole country, tax authority enforcement is the same. Agree? The tax authority enforcement in Malaysia for any company is the same. Then it's not a variable, it's a constant. Then you cannot have a constant in your model. It's fixed. It's the same.
But I think it is flawed. It is flawed. It is there are some imperfect.
No, it can be imperfect, but it's imperfect for everyone in a country, or it can be a perfect for everyone in a country. It cannot be different company to company.
I think in China, different local authority tax enforcement is different.
It's local enforcement.
Some place is strong, some place is weak.
Local and so. Yeah.
Mayor.
Yeah, for example, how do you get the information for TE, the tax and enforcement? Yeah, yeah, you better discuss with your supervisor. Yeah, this okay.
Thank you. First of all, for your nice presentation, especially regarding to the research model that you have it. Would you please go back to your research model? Yep, thank you. The positive form for your research model, actually that you mentioned that each component comes from, supported from which theory. It's very good indeed. It comes and shows that each variable comes from and supported from which theory. That's very good indeed. My question is that, would you please notify regarding to the mediating variable that you come over here regarding to the behavior theory, why you put it as the mediating variable, not moderating variable? And this is a very basic question. I haven't seen that during your presentation. You didn't talk that why you put it as the mediating, not moderating. And what's the difference between two things that make it clarify a little bit for the other students, maybe it's so good for them?
Because in my research, I think based on opportunistic behavior theory, manager can use their can use their condition and use their job convenience to do something for their self-interest, not for shareholders' interest.
Understood. No, just only as the level of the strengths of this variable. As you know that if it is as the strong effect on your model and you cannot omit it, it will be considered as the mediating variable. But it has the rule of the moderation, then you put it as the moderating variable. In the hypotheses that you have already mentioned, you put it as the moderating. Otherwise, as the Prof. Shai mentioned, that you should add 3 other hypotheses. And regarding to that hypothesis, you should change it from correlation to relation and also modify as the moderation. It is as the controversy between model and the hypothesis. If it is as the moderating, put it as the moderator and change your hypothesis. If it is considered as the mediating, therefore add 3 other hypotheses and stay as the mediating. But I know that you are so very aware about that. For the mediating effect, you should support very strongly through the literature review, while you put it as the mediating, not moderating. Okay?
Okay, I think it over.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have our last presenter for today, Mr. Franklin. He has been very patiently waiting for his turn. So maybe you can give him a round of applause.
Good afternoon, Prof, lecturers, and doctors. Yeah, I've been patiently waiting. Actually, I've been pushing my time to the end. I was supposed to do much earlier. Okay. Actually, you talk research update. There's not been. Actually, I would like to apologize. Not much of a progress has been happening in 2017. Not at the pace of 2016. 2016, there was quite a lot of progress in my research, but 2017 was a bit of a slowdown. But yet, I told myself I have to come here and do something. Otherwise, if I see the research community, it gets me going. This is one of the things that is there when you do part time. You need to have some communication and people working, and that motivates me. So I told myself I have to come here and somehow do some presentation, even if it's not so great. All right. So. Okay, this is a research topic that I have, an empirical study on the usage of smartphones in the retail shopping environment, challenges and opportunities in Malaysia. I've changed the word to retail, additional word retail here, because I found that it was a bit too wide. So I was just focused a little bit more on the retail, That is the reason this slide changes to my topic. Okay? The reason for the research, why is it that fascinated about this? Because I'm actually a marketer, and a lot of work I do is in the digital media and all that. And I find that today you find that a lot of shift is happening, especially in retail marketing. And one of the disruptor is basically we find that it's a smartphone. Smartphone has actually changed the way people buy things. If you find today in US, a lot of retail outlets have been closing down. So companies like Macy's, Kmart are closing hundreds of stores. The reason why is basically one of the things is basically a lot of online purchases happening. Okay? The situation in Malaysia is not much different. You find that Giant recently is closing 5 stores, and even Pakistan is exiting from the retail market now. So there is a huge challenge basically in the retail environment, especially when you talk about the brick and mortar stores. And then basically the problem basically is the disruption is basically coming from the smartphone. Okay, but the problem is it's not retails are closing, but it's the other way around. There's something very unique happening. You find that online retailers are now going to brick and mortar, like Amazon. Amazon recently bought over a supermarket chain, right? And companies like Alibaba also bought a supermarket chain, right? Another company called JD, which is a fully 100% online retailer, now moving into the what you call brick and mortar businesses. So there's a lot of disruption is changing. So the purpose of my research is to see what has really happened is basically the way that consumers buy is totally changed. So that's the reason why I'm doing research on the smartphone and how it's affected the customer purchase journey. Okay. Now this overview, introduction, a little bit, and problem statement, significant research. Look at the objectives. I'll look at the conceptual framework, research methodology, expected finding, and then the progress report. Okay. Basically, we find that in Malaysia, there's a huge uptake in the smartphone usage, over 4 times. In fact, this is not the latest. I got a newer research. More than 4 times smartphones have grown in Malaysia. Okay. And the reason is basically because of lower selling price of phones, lower data plans, and also 3G. Okay? And you find that Malaysians are using the smartphone. One of the biggest users of smartphones in Malaysia is Malaysians. They spend 187 minutes per day. That is 3 full hours on their devices. And smartphones are actually gaining traction, especially in the shopping area. And mobile phones are increasing. And shopping apps also are being downloaded. A lot of shopping apps are also being downloaded today. Okay, and consumers not only use this. We find this they don't use a smartphone only for purchasing a product, but they use it for many other things. As research has found that they use it for locating stores, checking prices, comparing products, gathering product information, and using reader reviews. This is from a French researcher, Colloquium, and all in 2014. Okay. You find that many of them are also using, 60% of shoppers, you are using the phone inside the shop, in the retail outlet itself. So, and that is also actually changing the way retail is being done today. And we find that today there's a new consumer behaviors emerge. Okay? And you find that sometimes the uniqueness, what I've read in my literature review is many customers, they start the journey on a smartphone, but end up buying using a PC. But sometimes they start with the PC, then go to the smartphone and buy it. Some of them basically they look at the smartphone and then the end purchase will be in a retail outlet. So this is what is happening today. And the problem statement. Now, even though smartphones ownership in Malaysia has constantly seen a steady growth and increased fourfold, but purchase using a smartphone has not grown at the same rate. So my problem statement is how do Malaysian smartphone users use their smartphone in the purchase decision? So this is what I would like to explore. What is the way that Malaysians use the smartphone in the purchase process? Not only buying the product, but also helping them to make the purchase decision. Okay. The significance of research is basically it will help whether online or offline retailers, mobile marketers, system developers to engage and influence the purchase of smartphone-enabled consumers today. Okay. Many researchers that in my research in my review, they use a TAM model, but very few empirical studies have been examined on consumer behavior in the smartphone. So my idea is to use an empirical way of research empirical. Okay. The aim is basically to study the use of the smartphone in the shopping process and to identify, this is my main aim, the challenges and opportunities in this area. And there are sub-objective is to study how Malaysian companies use the smartphones and look at the touch points. There are various touch points like mobile site, mobile apps, social media, physical store, and how these touch points help them in the purchase decision. And also to study the effect of mobile marketing, all the advertisements that comes to the mobile phone, how effective is this advertisement in the purchase decision. Okay. And further to look at the opportunities and challenges of retailers in Malaysia and the potential and the scope of mobile shopping in Malaysia. So this is all the 5 sub-objectives that I have. Okay. This is my conceptual framework. Now, the linear, this is, according to the framework, this is how the traditional buying purchase journey is. It's no linear. Okay. This is from what you call Cott et al. And another reason by Alicia Bike, she says that this is how it starts with awareness. You search awareness, you see an advertisement, and then you look for the product, and then you evaluate, and straight away you make a choice to buy. So this is how the normal purchase is when you purchase a product. Okay? But with the smartphone, things have changed. Okay, so this is my conceptual framework. So a consumer using a smartphone, there is a need recognition. Then the consumer buys through mobile apps, or they can go to the retail store. So there's a choice. They don't just straight away walk into the shop and buy. There are so many different choices that they have. And then they compare the prices and products, and then finally make the purchase. The purchase could be on a smartphone, or using a PC or tablet, or in a retail store. And then comes the post-purchase, and then you have the sharing online reviews. So this is, we divide the 3, there's a pre-purchase, the purchase, and the post-purchase. So this is my conceptual framework that, this is a research design. On the left, you have, these are all the independent variables, the effect of mobile marketing, on the purchase decision, and cultural differences, and the design and the ease of the mobile app site, demographic attributes, and online purchase reviews. So I got all these independent variables from these research, research articles. These are where I derive all the independent variables from. From here is where I have all the hypotheses. I derive all the hypotheses from here. My independent variable, the moderating variable, and my dependent variable. These are all the moderating variables. Research methodology is basically quantitative, the survey questionnaire. Sampling is non-probability sampling, convenience sampling method used for the study, and my sample size is 500. I took it from Hung et al. In Taiwan, and they did similar research done in Qatar. So they have taken 500 samples. So I'm using that. Smartphone users in Klang Valley, aged 18 to 16. Okay, so I've divided the 3 different sections. The questions will be, first is segmentation classification, focusing on demographic data. Second is the consumer behavior, how they shop. And third is what makes them to buy. So I've divided the 3 different okay, the 16 to 64 is my demographic scope. And focus will be on retail purchases, not including tickets and hotel and all that. So I've narrowed down the scope, now. Data collection will be conducted over a period of 6 months. A data collection technique consists of face-to-face interviews and email questionnaires. Study area will be, the limitation basically within the Klang Valley. So this will not be reflected to the whole of Malaysia because of remote areas like the East Coast and also the Sabah and Sarawak. Okay. Well, what do I expect to find from here is basically, will reveal the following. I believe that this research will give me a new pattern of the consumer behavior in Malaysia. And the factors that influence the consumer to use a smartphone to purchase the product. And what are the challenges faced by brick and mortar? Are they mobile ready? So this is the kind of things that I expect to discover from the research. And I'll insight into how to engage mobile marketing messages to consumers. These are the bibliography. And progress, the challenges that I have is basically in drafting the questionnaire is getting established questionnaire, because I can't use my own questionnaire, I need to get established questionnaire. So this is one of the challenges that I'm having, where to get established questionnaires. So I've got some answers and I'm going through, and this will be the next thing that I come. My next progress report will be when in the next colloquium will be to present the pilot study. So next will be to come up with the questionnaire and do the pilot study. So this will be my one. Thank you.
Hi, Franklin. I saw that you put out some cultural difference in your framework. So how are you going to measure it?
Good question. I was thinking of some proper thing. I haven't got that thing yet.
So it's simply put in first.
I put it in because there's a research thing is there, that's one of the thing is there. But I'm still formulating what kind of questionnaires to come.
Yeah, but you have to be quite clear of what kind of concept you want to measure in the culture before you design your questionnaire. If you start your questionnaire, you won't be able to. You have to put what
I want to get from.
Yeah. You can't have the main thing before you work on the details. You see.
I have to rework on that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Very good. Therefore, thank you for your presentation, and it will be a very good sample that we can discuss with the other PhD candidates. First of all, I haven't seen that Prof. Sorry that I haven't seen you. With your permission, I just only line some questions.
Prof is he is my supervisor.
My first question is that this presentation have already seen by Prof, and Prof confirm it or not? You confirm regarding to that? Yeah. How about Prof Shaheen also?
No, Prof Shaheen, only today I met him. Dr. Mahmood was my co-supervisor.
Yes, is the reason I surprised. Would you please go back to the first slide, please, from the title? That's the common and repeated question all the time. And I think that is the common mistake, or maybe one can say that as the share problem. Nowadays, we have it by the PhD students.
Is it problem statement?
Yeah, from the beginning. We started from the first slide. First slide. Topic. Yes. As you mentioned that as an empirical study of the usage of smartphone. How you prove it, it will be as the PhD level, not as the MBA project for usage of the smartphone. And where is the knowledge contribution of your research?
I would want to know what is the basically studying on consumer behavior. How do Malaysians use a smartphone in the buying process?
How you are improving the model that already used by the others? How do you change it? How do you add it? How you will go through as this study will be as the unique one, and you will be as the PhD level. Of course it will be, but it should be much clarified, and is the first regarding to differentiations between the MBA level and the PhD. As you mentioned, that's the empirical. That's the first big question. And then usage, the second big question. And then how you are going through that one for the retail shopping. That's very important. If you go, just I omit everything regarding your question, regarding to the problem, all of them I omit. Go back to your research model. As I see that your research model over there, in your research model, what does it mean? Of course, for all of them, we have something to discuss, but I just only omit regarding to the shortage of time. And later on, definitely I know that you will discuss with your committee. But for the research model, it's so very important. This research model developed by yourself or you are adopted from some places?
I've actually modified it from here.
No, your research.
Mine.
Yeah. What is the meaning of one over there?
Okay, the one was actually supposed to be a reference. There is a reference to that particular thing.
If it is as the reference, why it is over here as you considered for your conceptual framework?
No.
It is adopted.
The reason is how I constructed the conceptual framework is basically each one of it in my actual what I submit today in my what I written report, like information search. How do I come up with this? Is how people search information is basically from another research report. So that means from the research report, I find out that somebody has done the research and found out that
yes, this is the reason it could not be considered regarding to your activity. You can put it as the references or as the literature or as the supporting. For your conceptual, you should mention that which parameters, which diagrams, which one, which variables, blah, 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 you are taking from which category. In this way, it just simply come as the copy and paste over here. And then it should not be worse enough regarding to your conceptual model. And if you go to the next one, the next, of course, go, yeah. Over here, when you say that as the research design, as far as I know, that research design will be considered of the methodology, what is your society, what is your target, the population, blah, blah, blah. But it is not, it is considered as your research model, not research design. That one as the conceptual model, this one as the research. And when you go through it and you put it, just only you show that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, where are the hypotheses?
Hypotheses are based on that.
No, I know, this is the figure, but how about the writing?
The writing, I haven't put it here. It's already there. I have done it in my research proposal I've done today.
And in this case, when you put as the trust over here, trust, modality, all of them considered as the moderating variable?
Yeah, moderating variable. These three are the moderating.
How many hypotheses that therefore you are going through for the moderating? You mentioned as the 5 major hypotheses over there, and you didn't mention anything regarding to the moderation or moderating variables over there. And you didn't talk about the concept to select about these variables as the moderating. These are so very important that to be considered. And if you go again, just only further for the next slide, please, regarding, and also about these ones. Okay, forget it. I just only omit that. Regarding to the number of the questionnaire or something, as you mentioned, that is the 500.
Yeah.
Therefore, you do not through the qualitative. You just only go through the quantitative. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you generate the questionnaires? From which places that you are? And also those questionnaires are adopted or could be modified for the Malaysian culture, Malaysian society, or something like that. definitely you should come through some kind of the deep interviews first, modifying, moderating the questions, and generate it as the new one. And also, as you mentioned, that the 500 sample size for the Taiwan and Qatar, how it could be related to Malaysia? And also, who knows that this sample to be as the standard one? As the reference, also it will be as the, for example, could not be acceptable because it's not related to Malaysia. Simple and easy. You can put it as the one formula over there as the equation, and you put it as the e-value as the 6, 7, again in the morning because he was absent. 6, 7, or 8, then you reach to 1, 9, 8, 2, 8, 2, 3, 8, 1, something like that. Then reasonable and acceptable for the number of the questions and the sample size. And again, definitely, any kind of the examiners come to your Viva without any doubt, they will reject all the activities. If you put it as the Klang Valley for the PhD reason only, or we call it in Malaysia, Sahaja, it will be rejected. You are as the PhD level, even as the diploma that we have it over here, they go beyond the Klang Valley. You as the professional and expert for the marketing, and you can access, and you know that I'm expatriate, but you're Malaysian, and you know that the Penang culture totally different from the Johor Bahru.
Yeah.
I don't talk about the Sabah Sarawak as the east and the west, and even you should go there, but it depends on the budget. But sample size only for Klang Valley, do you think that it will be sufficient? I think that you should talk, and definitely committee will talk with these matters, but just only because you already presented to the students, I wanted to make it clear out as the PhD level, you should be considered in the different way of the project or MBA level.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hussein. Maybe you would want to consider to do a pilot study first,
Yeah.
and then maybe you want to run a combat alpha on your questionnaire before you carry out the subsequent, because your questionnaire is not developed
Yeah,
yet.
develop yet, that's right. I need to do the pilot study first, come up with the questionnaire and do the pilot study first before I progress. That's the next stage of my progress.
Okay. Okay, thank you for both the commenters and the presenter. So we will end our session today. There's no dinner today, okay, so don't stay back until 6. I will see you tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Okay, please be punctual. We will try to start as punctual as possible. Oh yes, and don't go back first. You should go and meet your supervisor. Okay, try to catch your supervisor, get as much feedback as possible.